talk about the sentiment analysis. First, we will talk about this definition. What is that? The sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis, also known as the opinion mining or emotional AI, is the use of natural language process, text analysis, computational linguistic, and biometric to systematically identify, extract, quantify, and study affective state and subject information. Sentiment analysis is widely applied to voice of the customer materials such as review and survey responses online and social media, and healthcare materials for application that range for making to customer service to clinical medicine. With the rise of deep language models such as robots, also more difficult data domain can be analyzed. For example, new texts where authors typically express their opinion, sentiment lacks explicitity. Simple cases, Co- Coronet has been best line of all these crucials. Bartram has a deep V hull and runs easily through the sea. Pastel Chronal 1980s day cruisers for Florida and ugly. I dislike all cabin cruisers. More challenging example. I do not dislike cabin crucial. Dislike weathercraft is not really my thing. This is the comments which the users give their personal opinion, how they feel after having the experience of particular service or after using a particular product. So these type of their challenging example which I am discussing with you. Sometime I really hate, I don't really true love opinion out of this weather. Chris Craft is better looking than Limestone. Chris Craft is better looking than Limestone. The movie is surprising with plenty of unsettling plot twist. You should see their descendant dessert menu. I love my mobile, but would not recommend it to any my colleague. Next week, gig will ring. These are the example. Let's talk about its types. A basic task is sentiment analysis is classifying the polarity of a given text at the document, sentences, or features aspect level, whether the express opinion in a document, a sentence, or entirely featured as aspect is positive, negative, or neutral, advanced beyond the polarity. Sentiment classification looks, for instance, at emotional states such as enjoyment, anger, disgust, sadness, fear, and surprise. Precursors to sentiment analysis include the journal inquiry, which provide the hint towards quantify pattern in the text, and separately psychological research. The examined a person of psychological state based on the analysis of verbal behavior. Here is the definition of the psychological state. What is this? This is a mental state or a mental property is a state of mind of a person. Mental state comparison a diverse class including perception, pain, pleasure, experience, belief, desire, intention, emotion, and memory. There is a controversy concerning the exact definition of term according to the epistemic. Subsequently, the method described in a patent by Volcani and Fogg looked specially of sentiment and identify individual words and phrases in text with respect of different emotion scale. A current system based on their work called effect check presented synonym that can be used to increase or decrease the level of evoke emotion in each scale. Many other subsequent efforts were less sophisticated, using a more polar view of sentiment from positive to negative, such as work by Turney and Pang, who applied different methods for detecting the polarity. of product reviews and movies reviews respectively. This work is the documented level. One can also classify a document polarity of multi-way scale, which was attempted by Pang and Sentry. Among the other, Pang and Lee expanded the basic task of classifying a movie review as either positive or negative to predict star rating either of 3 or 4 star scale, while Cinder performed in-depth analysis of restaurant reviews, predicting rating for various aspects of the given restaurant such as the food and atmosphere of 5-star scale. First step to bringing the together various approaches, learning lexical knowledge based etc. were taken into 2004 AAAI Spring Symposium, where linguistic computer scientists and other interested research find aligning interest and propose shared tasks and benchmark data set for the systematic computational research on effect appeal objective and sentiment in task. Even though in most statistical classification method the neutral class is ignored under the assumption that natural text is lie near the boundaries of the binary classification. Several researchers suggest that as in every polarity problem, three categories must be identified. Moreover, it can be proven that specified classifications such as the max entropy and SVMs can benefit from the introduction of natural classes of improve the overall accuracy of the classification. There are principal two ways for operating with the natural classes. Either the algorithm proceed by the identification the natural language, filtering it out and assessing the rest in terms of positive and negative sentiments, or it built of three ways classification in one step. The second approach often involves estimate a probability distribution over all categories. For example, native Bayes classification as implemented by the NLTK. Whether and how use the natural class depend on the natural of the data. If the data is clearly clustered into natural, negative and positive language, it makes sense to filter the natural language out of the focus on the polarity between positive and negative sentences. If a contracts that data are mostly natural with small deviation towards positive and negative effect, this strategy would make it harder to clarify distinguish between the two poles. A different method of determining the sentiment is the use of the scaling system, whereby words commonly associated and having a negative, natural, or positive sentiment with them are given as associated number on a minus 10 plus 10 scale, most negative up to most positive, or simple from 0 to positive upper limit such as plus 4. This make it possible to adjust the sentiment of a given term relative of to the environment, usually on the level of the sentences. When a pieces of unstructured text is analyzed using natural language processing, each concept in the specified uni- environment is given a score based on the way sentiment word related to the concept and its associated score. The allow movements to be more sophisticated understanding of sentiment, because it is now possible to adjust the sentiment value of the concept relative to modification that may surround it. Words, for example, that intensify, relax, and negate to the sentiment expressed by the concept can be affect its score. Alternatively, text can be given a positive and negative sentiment strength score if the goal to the determine the sentiment in a text rather than the overall polarity and the strength of the text. There are various other type of sentiment analysis such as aspect based sentiment analysis, guarding sentiment analysis, positive, negative, neutral, multilingual sentiment analysis, and detections of emotion. Let's talk about the subjective objectivity identification. This task is commonly defined as classifying a given text, usually a sentences, into one or two classic, objective or subject. This problem can sometimes to be more difficult than polarity classification. The subjectivity of words and the phrases may depend on their context and ob- objective documents. Many contain subjective sentences. For example, a new article questions people opinion. Moreover, a mention by the result are largely depends on the identification of subjective use when annotating text. However, Pang shows that involving the objective sentences would a document before classifying it polarity help improve performance. Subjective and objective identification, emerging subjects of sentiments analysis to use synthetic sentiment features and machine learning knowledge to identify if a sentences or documents contain fact or opinion. Awareness or recognize factual and opinion is not recent, having possible first represent by Cornell, Yale University in 1979. The term objective refer to the incident carrying factual information. Example of an objective sentence is to be elected president of the United States. A candidate must be at least 35-year age. The term subjective describe the incident contain non-factual emotional in a various forms such as personal opinion, judgment, and prediction, also known as private state. In the example down below, it reflects a private state. We American, moreover, the target entity commented by the opinion can take several from the tangible product to intangible topic matter state in lieu. 2010. Furthermore, three types of the attitude were observed in lieu: positive opinion, neutral opinion, and negative opinion. Example of subjective sentences: we American need to elect a president who is the mature and who is able to make a decision. This analysis is a classification problem. Each class collection of words or phrases indicates are defined for a local desirable pattern and unrotated text for subjective expression. A different word list has been created. List of subjective indicators in word or phrases have been developed by multiple researchers in the linguistic and natural language processing field, state in a relief et al. 2003. A dictionary of extraction rules has been created for measuring given expression over the year. In subjective delections, the feature extracted progressions for uh, creating features by hand to automated feature learning. At the moment, automatic learning method can further separate into supervised and unsupervised machine learning. Pattern extracted with machine learning process, unnot- unrotated and unrotated and unannotated texts have been explored extensively by academic research. However, researchers recognize several challenges in developing field set of rule for expressing respectively. Much of the challenging in rule developments streams from the natural and textual information. Six challenges have been recognized by several researchers: metaphorical expression, discrepancies in writing, context sensitivity, represented word with fewer uses, time sensitivity, and ever growing volume. Metaphorical expression: the text contain metaphoric expression may impact on the performance on the text extraction. Beside metaphors take in a different form which may have been contributed to increase in deduction. Discrepancies in writing for text obtained from the internet. The discrepancies in the writing style of targeted text involve the distinct writing journal and style. Context sensitivity. Classification may vary based on the subjectiveness and objectiveness of previous and following sentences. Time sensitivity. Time sensitive attribute: the task is challenged by some text textual data time sensitive attribute. If a group of researchers want to confirm a piece of fact in the new way, they need a longer time for cross validation, then the new become outdated cut word with the fewer uses. Ever growing volume, the task is also challenged by the sheer volume of textual data. The textual data ever growing natural make the task well, well, overwhelmingly difficult for the researcher to complete the task on time. Previously, the researcher mainly focused on document level classification. However, classifying a document level suffer less accuracy as an article may have diverse type of expression involved. Researching evidence suggests a set of new articles that are expressed to the dominate by the objective expression, whereas the result shows that it consists of over 40% of subjective expression. To overcome those challenging, researchers conclude that classification efficiency depend on the precision of pattern learner, and the learner feed with the large volume of the annotated training data outperform those trained on less comprehensive subjective features. Further, one the main obstacle to excluded this type of work to the generate a big data set of annotated sentences manually. This manual annotation method has been less forward than automatic learning for three reasons. Number one, variations is comprehension. In the manual annotation task, disagreement or whether one instance is subjective or objective may occur among the annota- annotators because of language ambiguity. Human errors. Manual annotations task is meticulous assignment. It's require intense concentration to finish. Number three, time consuming. Manual annotation task is an assiduous work. Real of shows that 160 text cost 8 hours for one annotator to finish. All these mentions reason can be impact on efficiency and effectiveness of subjective and objective classification. According to bootstrapping method were designed to learning linguistic pattern from unrotated text. What both method are starting with a handful of C word and unrotated textual data. Meta bootstrapping by Riloff and Johnson in 1999, level 1, generated extraction pattern based on the three predefined rules and the extracted pattern by the number of seeds words each pattern hold. Level 2, top 5 words will be marked and added to the dictionary repeat. Basil's bootstrapping approach to scientific lexicon inductions using the scientific knowledge by the Thelen and Roloff. Step 1, generate extraction pattern. Step 2, move past pattern from pattern pool to candidate word pool. Step 3, 10 words with the marks and add to the dictionary repeat. Overall, these algorithms highly the needed for automatic pattern recognition and extraction in subject and object tasks. Subjective and objective classification can enhance the several application of natural language process. One of the classified primarily benefit is that is popularized the practice of the data driven decision making process in various industries. According to Liu, the application of subject and objective identification have been implemented in business, advertising, sport, and social science. Here is some important points. The first is online review classification. In the business industry, the classify help to the company better understand the feedback on product and reasoning behind the receiver. Stock price prediction. In the finance industry, the classify aids to prediction model by processing auxiliary information from social media and other textual information from the internet. Previous study and Japanese stock price conducted by Dung et al. Indicate that model with subjective and objective module may perform better than those who the part of social media analysis. Student feedback classification. Document summarizing the classifier can extract target specified comment and gathering opinion made by one particular entity. Complex question answering. The classifier can dissect the complex question by classing the language subject or objective and focus target in the research you et al. To 2003, the research developed a sentences and document level cluster that identify opinion prices domain specify application. Email analysis. The objective classify detecting spam by the tracing the language pattern with the target word. Let's talk about is future aspect based. It refers to determining the opinion or sentiments expressed on different features or aspect of entities. For example, of a cell phone, a digital camera, or a bank. A feature or aspect of the attribute of component of any entity. Suppose the screen of a cell phone, the service for a restaurant, or the picture quality of a camera. The advantage of feature based sentiment analysis is the possibility to capture nuisance about the objective of interest. Different feature can generate different sentiment responses. For example, a hotel can have a conventional location but medicated food. The problem involves several subject problem. For example, identifying the relevant entity, extracting their features as aspect, and the determining whether an opinion expressed on each feature aspect is a positive or negative or neutral. The automatic identification of features can be performed with the sentiment method, with the topic modeling, or with deep learning. More detailed discussion about the level of sentiment analysis can be found in Liu's work. Intensity ranking. Emotion and sentiment are subjective in a nature. To degree of emotion and sentiment expressed is a given text at the document sentences or the further aspect level. To what disagree of intensity to express in the opinion of a document. A sentences or an entity different on a cases to case bias. However, prediction only the emotion and sentiment does not always convey complete information. The degree of level emotion and sentiments often plays a crucial role in the understanding the exact feeling within the single class. For example, good versus awesomes. Some method leverage a stakes ensemble method to predicting intensity for emotion and sentiment by combining the output obtained and using deep learning model based on conve- uh, convolutional natural network, long short term memory network, and gated occurrent unit. Method and features. Let's talk about the sentiment analysis method and features. Existing approaches to sentiment analysis can be grouped into three main categories: knowledge based technique, statistical method, and hybrid approaches. Knowledge based technique classify text by affecting categories based on the presence of the ambiguous affect words such as happy, sad, afraid, and bored. Some knowledge based not only list obvious affect words but also assign the arbitrary word of probable affinity to particular emotion. Statistical method leverage element from machine learning and as latent semantic analysis support vector machine bag or words point which mutual information for sentiment orientation. Sentiment space model or word embedding model, and deep learning. More sophisticated method try to detect the holder of a sentiment, that is the person who maintain the effective state, and the target, that is the entirely about which the effect is the method to detect the holder of the sentiment. To mine the opinion is context and get the features about which the speaker has opinion, and grammatical relationship of word are used. Grammatic, grammatical dependency relation are obtained by deep pursuing of the text. Hybrid approaches leverage both machine learning and element from knowledge representation such as ontologies and systematic network in order to detect systematic that are expressed in a subtle manner. For example, through the analysis of concepts that do not explicitly convey relevant information but which are implicitly linked to other concepts that do so. One sources software tools as well as the range of free and the paid sentiment analysis tool deploy machine learning, statistical and natural language processing technique to automate sentiment analysis and large collection of the text including web page, online news, internet discussion group, online reviews and blog and social media. Knowledge based system on the other hand make us or publicly available resources to extract the sentiment analysis can also be performed on visual context, that is image and video. See multimodal sentiment analysis. One of first approach in the directions is sentibank, utilizing an adjective non-pair representation of visual content. In addition, the vast majority of sentiment classification approaches really on the bag of words model, which disregarded context, grammar, and even word approaches that analyzes the sentiment basis on the how word compose the meaning of longer phrases have shown better result, but they incur an additional attention overhead. A human analysis component is required in sentiment analysis, as automated systems are not able to analyze historian tendencies of the individual commuter of the platform and are often classified incorrectly in their expression. Automation impact approximately 23% of the comment that are correctly classified of human. However, human often disagree and argue that interhuman agreement positively upper bound of automation sentiment classification can eventually reach. Let's talk about the evaluation. The accuracy of sentiment analysis system is a principle how well it agree with the human judgment. This is usually measured by the variant measurement based on the precise and recall over the two target categories or negative and positive text. However, record the rest human rates typically only the agree about 80% of the time. Seen the later reliability, those are programs that achieve 70% accuracy in the classification sentiment is doing nearly as well as the human, even though such as accuracy may not sound impressive. It is program where ring 100% the time human would still disagree with about 20% of time, since I disagree that much about any other. On the other hand, computer system will make very different errors than human assessors, and those the figure are not entirely comparable. For instance, a computer system will have trouble with negotiation, exaggerations, joke, and criticism, which typically are easy to handle for a human readers. Some errors a computer system make will seem overly native to a human. In general, the utility for practice, commercial task, and sentiment analysis at it is defines in academic research has been called into the question mostly since the simple one-dimensional model of sentiment from the negative to positive yield rather than the automatic info- actionable information for the client worrying about the effect and the publish discomfort, for example, the brand of corporation and reputation, to better fit market needs. Eventually, evaluation of sentiment analysis have moved to more task-based measurement, formulating together with the impressive representative from PR agencies and market research professors for focus in a, for example, the RAB lab evaluation data set is less of the content of text under the consideration and more on the effect of text question, because evaluation of sentiment analysis is becoming a more and more task based. Each implementation need to separate training model get to more accurate representation of sentiment for a given data set. Let's talk about the Web 2.0. The rise of social media such as blog and social network has flooded interest in sentiment analysis. With the proliferation and reviewer rating, the recommendation and other form of the online expressions. Online opinion has turned into a kind of virtual currency for business looking to the market their product, identify new opportunities and manage their reputation. As business look to automate the process of filtering out of noise, understanding the conversations, identifying the relevant content, and actioning it approximately may are now looking to the field of sentiment analysis. Further complicating the matter is the rise of the anonymous social media platforms such as 4inch and Reddit. If Web 2.0 was all about the democratizing publishing, the next stage of the web may well based on the democratizing data mining all of the content that is getting published. Data mining is the process to extract and the discovering the pattern in large data set involving method at the intersection of machine learning, statistical and database system, data mining, and the interdependent disciplinary subfield of computer science and statistical with an overall goal of extracting information. 4chan is an anonymous English language that is the launch by Christopher Moon Fool in October 2003. The site hosts board dedicated to a wide variety of topics from video games and television to literate cooking, weapons, music, history, aim to fit political and support. On one step towards the aim of accomplished in a research, several research terms in a university around the world currently focus on understanding the dynamic of sentiment in the e-communalities through the sentiment analysis. What is the e-communality? A virtual community is a social work of individuals who connect through the specified social media, potentially crossing the graphical and political boundaries in order to pursue mutual interest of goals. Some of most previous versus virtual communalities are online communalities operating under the sentiment analysis. The problem is that the most sentiment analysis algorithm use simple term to express sentiment about the product of services. However, cultural factor, linguistic nuisance, and different context make the extreme difficulty to turn a strike of return text into the simple pro or con sentiment. The fact that humans often disagree on the statement of text illustrate how big a task it is the computer to get the right. The shorter the string of the task, the harder it becomes. Even though shorter text string might be a problem, sentiment analysis with microblogging has shown that Twitter can be seen as a valid online indicator on a political sentiment. Tweets political sentiment demonstrate close correspondence to partial and the political political positions, indicating that the content of Twitter messaging pleasu- eh, plausibly reflect on offline political landscapes. Furthermore, sentiment analysis on Twitter has also been shown to capture to the public mood behind human reproduction cycle globally, as well as the problem of public health relevance such as adverse drug reaction. While sentiment analysis has been popular for the domain where authors express their opinion rather explicitly, the movie is awesome, such as social media and product review. Only recently, reversed method were devised to other domains where sentiment is a strongly implicate of indicate. For example, in new article, mostly due to the expected journalistic objective, journalistic often describe action or even rather than the directly stating the polarity of pieces of information. Earlier approaches using the dictionaries or showing the machine learning features were able to catch the meaning between the line, but recently research have proposed a deep learning based on approaches and dataset that is able to analyze sentiment in new article. Scholars have utilized sentiment analysis also the construction health and safety tweets, which is called X now. The research revealed that there is a positive correlation between the favorite and the retweet in a term of sentiment violence. There have extreme and the impact of YouTube and the dissertation of the construction and health of safety knowledge. They investigate how emotion and influence use behavior in terms of viewing and commenting through the sentiment analysis. In other study, positive sentiment accounted for an overwhelming figure of 85% in knowledge sharing of construction safety and healthy wise Instagram application in recommendation system. Let's talk about this application and recommendation system. For a recommendation system, sentiment analysis has been proven to be valuable technique. A recommendation system aims to predict the preference for the an item of a target user. Mainstream recommendation system work on explicit data set. For example, collaborative filtering work on the rating mix and the context based filtering work on the metadata on this item. If we talk about the content based filtering, that is the recommendation system, or the recommendation system is a subclass of information filtering system that provides suggestion for items that are most part, pertinent to the particular user. Recommender system are particularly useful when the individual need to choose it from the potential product, but the former are the more valuable for the recommendation system. Since these features are broadly mentioned to user in their review, they can be seen as the most crucial feature that can be significantly influence user experience on item. While the metadata of item usually provided by the produce instead of consumer may ignore further that the concern by the user for different item with common features, a user give different sentiments. Also, the features of the same item may receive the different sentiment from the different user. User sentiment on the features can be regretted as the multidimensional rating score reflecting their preference on the item. Based on the further aspect of the sentiment extracted from the user generated text, hybrid recommendation system can be constructed. There are two type of motivation to the recommendation and candidates item to a user. The first motivation is the candidate item that has nervous common features with the user's preference item, while the second motivation is that the candidate item received high sentiment on the feature. For a preferred item, it is a reasonable to believe that item with the same features will have a similar function or utility. So these item will also likely to be preferred by the user. On the other hand, one of the shared feature of the two candidates item, other user may give positively sentiment to one of the while giving negative sentiment to another. Clearly, the high evaluation item should be recommended to use. Based on these two motivations, a combination ranking score of similarity and the sentiment rating can be conducted for each candidate item. Except the difficulty of the sentiment analysis itself, applying sentiment analysis on reviewer on feedback also face the challenging of the spam and based review on deduction of the work focus of evaluating the help line of each review of the feedback properly written is hardly helper for the recommender system. Beside, a review can be designed to hinder sale of target product, those the harmful to the recommendation system even it well written. Researcher also found that long and short form of user generated text would be treated differently. An interesting result of shown that short form of review and also sometimes more helpful than long term because it is easier to filter out of the noise in other short form text. For a long form text, growing the length of the text does not always bring the uh, pro, proportional proportionate increase in the number of features or sentiment in the text. Lamba and Madhusudha introduce a nuisance way the cater the information needs of today library using by the repacking the result of sentiment analysis of social media platform like Twitter and provide it is the consolidated time-based service in a different format. Further, the uh, pro propose a new way of the calculating the market is libraries using social media mining and sentiment analysis. See also, here is the alternative computing, consumer sentiment, emotion recognition, friendly artificial intelligent, interpersonal accuracy, and multimodal sentiment analysis. This is we will discuss for upcoming video.